welcome everyone to this podcast episode on the 21st of July 2025, where Jakko and I are going to talk about gratitude and trauma, which sometimes is a wondrous combination for people. But a lot of us think, well, if we're grateful enough, then we don't have to feel trauma. Or if you could just be a little bit more grateful instead of all that trauma drive. And we complain a lot, and we hear a lot of judgment about people not being grateful enough in these ages and all those things. And we thought, let's talk about it because it's a soul trait that is extremely important. And the interesting thing is, it shifts it from being a momentary practice into a state of being. The interesting thing is, gratitude isn't just a practice of thinking about what we can be grateful for. It is not about making a list of things that we can or should be grateful for. It's about training the nervous system to feel safe enough to receive. And that's an entirely different approach when we talk about gratitude, because our mind often knows that we should be grateful for things or that we have a lot to be grateful for. But if our nervous system isn't safe enough to receive, that is extremely difficult to feel. Then we get a break or a contradiction in our system, because our mind says you should be grateful, but our system doesn't feel safe. And that means that we're judging ourselves, making it worse. So trying to do gratitude practice when there is deep trauma running your system can actually be re-traumatizing to a certain degree. I've had a conversation with a lot of people over the past years, or a lot of conversations over the past years, about why we are so ungrateful or why gratitude is so hard, because I'm not sure people are ungrateful. It's just extremely hard. And I came up with two things. And that's what we're going to talk about. And then we're going to talk about a lot of different things and aspects about gratitude. The two reasons why gratitude is so hard is, first of all, because our nervous system is being mostly developed before the age of 7 and being ingrained and deepened and matured until we are 27. But before the age of 7, if you do not receive what you really need, it feels like somebody should have given it to you for the rest of your life, which is true, because before you're 7, especially around 2, it is impossible for a child to create it on their own. They really need somebody to take care of it. So then, if that didn't happen, it feels like, but it should be created for me. It should have been taken care of. So this whole attitude of a spoiled human being that we see in a lot of people, not in all of us, but in a lot of people, very often can be related to very early developmental trauma, even though we often have no recollection of that. But we really needed somebody else to provide it. And now, and by the way, this is not the only explanation for being spoiled, right? It's just one of them. We feel that it should have come to us, and we're still waiting for that moment. That's one. There is another reason making it extremely hard, especially in this individualistic age. And that is that if we receive something from somebody else, we create a debt with that other person. So if Jakko, you're sitting here and we're having this conversation, if you give me something and I receive it, then that can feel like now I owe you. So now I have to do something back. It's extremely hard to make receiving and giving non-transactional in today's age, because if we live in a group of 20, 30 people who are all taking care of each other, then, and I know this from sailing out at sea, right? Then you're with 50 people on a ship for 2 or 3 weeks, no harbors, And then all the transactional stuff kind of disappears because everybody's taking care of the whole. And one person might get seasick and the other person might never get seasick. And at a certain point, it just all stops. Everybody stops counting. Everybody stops needing other people to do it because it is unfair or whatever, because we're all responsible for the ship, and some have a bit more to give and some have a bit less to give, and it stops becoming transactional. But in everyday life, living in a city, things become extremely transactional, because if I can't pay you back and I don't know what paying it forward means, then there is an immense sense of debt and lack. And that makes it hard to receive. It also makes it hard to give, because we don't want to give somebody debt. So I will give it, but then I want something back. And these things are big obstructions, and I'm just oversimplifying it right now. We could go into this for an hour. I think it's more important to go into other aspects of it. But it is extremely hard for these two reasons, and maybe there are 20,000 reasons, right? To truly feel grateful, and then allowing the other person to deal with their own pain. What comes to your mind when you hear me say this?
A few things. When you started off, I thought, okay, but maybe some people aren't even grateful because they don't know how that should be, and that is caused by trauma, developmental trauma. So you went there, and but if I think of gratitude, especially the first 20 years of my life when I was still living with my parents and sisters, there was a lot of gratitude, but it was being polite. So it was all about politeness and being humble, but also from a polite kind.
Yeah, so that's gratitude to not be in other people's way.
Yeah.
So that's a very different type of gratitude. It's kind of like, be grateful, shut up, don't have an opinion. Because if you're grateful, then you're polite, and then you're an acceptable human being.
Yeah, yeah, and it's if you go there, you can make it like it's not real gratitude, and it is a different kind of gratitude maybe, but there was still also real gratitude in it. It was not only for politeness sake, but as long as the politeness is a large part of it, it's difficult to feel really the gratitude as a whole, and the power of it.
And it's interesting because there's a lot of what I call bullshit gratitude coming from a place of, in this country, in the Netherlands, we have a very interesting saying, and I'm pretty sure it's more widespread than just this country, and that is, I mustn't complain.
Mm-hmm.
I mustn't complain. Well, maybe true, but that sounds like deep ungratefulness underneath. I mustn't complain. Like, I have nothing to complain about. No, you really don't. But it doesn't say I'm deeply grateful. It says I mustn't complain.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, okay, so I have a lot of complaints, and I'm not going to say them out loud because I'm grateful. Look how grateful I am.
Or it's like there is a line which isn't there, but there's a line, and I live above this line, so I don't have to complain. If I was under this line of,
then I have a right to complain.
yeah, so my life is on the line or above this line of welfare. How do you say this?
Well-being.
Well-being. and so it's the other way around. It's not I have a wonderful life, so I'm grateful. No, I have a good life, so there's no reason to complain. Because if I was beneath this line of well-being, I had the right to complain. So
Yeah.
it's really a spoiled way of living your life,
It's actually very
especially
spoiled.
if you were born in here in the Netherlands, where everything is mostly fine compared to
A
other
lot better
countries.
than fine.
Yeah, yeah.
Mostly everybody lives here in extreme wealth, even even if you don't have a lot of money and you don't have a lot of income. Because even on an extreme low income, it's still beautiful living here in a maybe extremely tiny apartment with just a little bit of food. You're protected here, you're safe, you can have a lot of friends, and you can still do beautiful things. And this is where gratitude comes in, where deep gratitude comes in. Because, like I said in the beginning, it's not a list of things that we're supposed to be thankful for. It's a nervous system posture of reception, meaning that it is the moment you stop fighting life and beginning to accept it, beginning to not just accept it, but to be with it. So when we stop fighting life, stop resisting and stop saying, well, it should be different, but you know what? I'm going to be grateful with what it is. That's still fighting. I'm going to accept the situation even though it's unacceptable. That's still resisting. Gratitude means that we recognize the situation that we are in, no matter what it is, as the doorway to presence. And presence is always where God lives. Now, that's easy if you live in the Netherlands, in the place where we are right now. We're now in our living room.
Oh, you say it's easy, but why do I see that much people not being
No,
grateful?
exactly. But I was just going to say it's pretty easy when you're here. It's extremely complicated if you're in a situation where there's a lot of stuff going on, where
Mm.
maybe your spouse is hurting you physically or emotionally, or maybe your boss is a complete jerk and acting like it, or maybe you're fired for no reason, or maybe, um, sorry, I have something in my throat, or maybe your parents never speak to you. I was speaking to a woman the other week. Her mom, her daughter, and her brother are not speaking to her. So, and they haven't spoken with her, I think, in 20 years or something. Now, that feels like, how can I be grateful for life if this is going on, right?
Mm.
People in war areas might feel that they have a right to be ungrateful. So, in harsh situations, it feels like, yeah, but now you can give up on gratitude because now you have a right to, to worry or a right to fight. But the interesting thing is that if we can allow our nervous system in that moment to see the doorway to God, meaning that we can see, for instance, that we are still alive, that there are people that are speaking to us, that the sun is shining. And this is incredibly difficult in a lot of situations. I've been in many of those situations. I've lost everything 3 times. I've been raped by my first boyfriend. I had horrible situations in my childhood. If we, in that moment, can still see the things that are also good, that really are good, then we allow our nervous system to move into a place of receptivity. And that receptivity will allow us to get through this situation faster. And that will allow us to see opportunities faster so that we can move through life quicker. Not quicker to the end, but quicker to a healthy situation back.
But how do you see this then? If people are in a war zone and they really are fearing for their lives, and there's a situation going on with big danger, and I cannot imagine that you would be thankful in this moment.
So this is an interesting thing. This is what I learned from my grandfather, who was in a prison camp in the Second World War, and he escaped the camp. And he had a whole footpath of 6 months walking through the entirety of Poland. And it depends on what you see and how you view it. So my grandfather was in the camp, and because he was a soldier, he was able to receive mail. Many people in the camp were not. The soldiers were granted to receive letters. For the rest, they were treated as horrible, but they could receive letters. And he received little tools that he hid in his uniforms, and he sewed them into the lining of his uniforms, and the Germans never caught that. Now, he was not grateful that he was in the camp. He was not grateful for the way he was treated. He was not grateful for many things there. He was not grateful for the war. But he was extremely grateful for the little woodworking tools. He was extremely grateful for the friendship that he had with 5 people in the camp. He was extremely grateful that they had something called the Escape Committee, which was just a group of 6 people in the camp who were constantly planning how to escape. And they were creating tunnels underneath the camp. Ultimately, that's not how they escaped, but they were constantly preparing to escape. And he was extremely grateful that they could put their minds together and that he found people who were just as determined as he was. He was extremely grateful that when they were packed into a cargo wagon of the train, transported to a different camp, that he had the courage to cut open the train and jump out. So it's not that he was grateful for everything in that situation, but gratitude is not about being grateful for all things. It is about being present to all things so that we can find God in that present moment. And that's a very different thing. Even in those moments of extreme horror, to not bypass it and let it overtake us, but to receive the opportunity that is in the moment.
Yeah. But I can still imagine that as soon as you're going in such a stressful state, like you're in the freeze or fight or flight reaction, then there's not much room for your presence.
No, and this is interesting. This is why when we're not in a German prison camp or in any other prison camp for that matter, right? I don't think the Germans have them anymore. But they are there in other parts of the world right now, right? So when we're not there, and also when we are, we need to practice this gratitude, not from a place of, okay, I'll create a list to be thankful for, you know what, I mustn't complain. No, we need to do the nervous system regulation work so that we have this nervous system setting that will allow us to view the good in all things. If we don't practice this when we don't need it, we won't have it when we do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's what this is about. It's about practicing extreme levels of gratitude so that when we need it, we will be able to access it. I've taken this exercise extremely far. I've taken it to the degree that I am extremely grateful for all the horror that happened in my life, each and every one of it, because it brought me an opportunity to develop something in me that I would never have been able to develop without those situations. So, for instance, my first boyfriend who raped me, I do not think that's a good thing. I do not think he should have done that. I do not in any way take that lightly. I don't think that should have happened. But I do know what it helped me develop in me. So, as much as I don't believe it's a good thing that men walk around this planet raping women, through that incident or through that event, I developed a set of boundaries that I did not have. I was not able to express a clear no. I was not able to walk away from a relationship that wasn't good for me and hadn't been good for me for over 18 months already. I wasn't able to hold my own space to the degree that I could keep me safe. Now, he still shouldn't have done it, but if he hadn't done it and he would have just broken up with me, I still wouldn't have developed that. So that event changed the way I dealt with me, what I allow in my life and don't allow in my life, the way I stopped taking care of the other person's pain, because this wasn't an asshole. This was an extremely loving, beautiful person who had just as severe trauma as I had and who couldn't deal with himself. It was a young guy. If I would look at him now, I'd say that he was acting from trauma. Now, that still doesn't make it all right. Still doesn't make it all right. But I was taking care of him because I saw his pain. Instead of that, I was taking care of me, developing a place where I could hold me. If this wouldn't have gone as far as it had, I would never have learned, because I needed to stop hoping for somebody else to protect me and start really serving myself, not from a place of I can do everything on my own. That is the first phase of it. But ultimately, I learned to trust people again, not because everybody is trustworthy, because ultimately we don't know. Ultimately, everybody has a setting where they could become dangerous. But I've learned to not place my trust all on other people and my safety all on other people. And I've learned to know when I can walk away. What I was doing is I was taking care of everybody's pain because their pain was worse than mine. And hey, you know what? It's okay if it hurts me. That's fine. And that's doormat behavior. I was so terrified of abandonment that I was just taking care of everybody's wounds so they wouldn't leave me, instead of actually taking responsibility for my own safety so that the other person doesn't have to. So that if their trauma shows up, I could just walk away if I wanted to. My relationship with you didn't become safer because I started to trust you. It became safer because I looked at all these incidents in my life and I learned that I can be safe for me. So I don't need to be afraid of you because I can leave if I want to. Without this rape, I would not have developed that.
Mm-hmm.
I still don't believe it's a good thing to rape people. I still don't believe that this will always be the lesson in it. But for me, it was. And I've learned to look at each and every horror thing in my life from a place of, I can think it's unfair that it happened, and I can think that the other person needs to be punished because they did it. That's not going to help me. That might help justice, whatever that means, but it's not going to help me feel better. What's going to help me feel better is look at all those situations and be extremely grateful for what they brought me, even if it is just the slightest thing. I'm not going to look for them in my future, but I can look at them from a place of not accepting that it happened, but gratitude that it happened because of who I am because of it.
And is it gratitude because it happened, or gratitude because you learned from it? Is it gratitude for the lessons you took from it? Because there are people who have been in this situation and maybe they didn't take the same lessons as you did.
True. And I would agree, and there's a slight hesitance because I've had a lot of clients who said, yeah, okay, so I'm grateful for the lesson, still hate the guy, and he should be in the deepest dungeon. That means that you didn't take the lesson. And that is an extremely hard thing, and not everybody will be able to do it with every situation. That's also, wait, hold on. I see you want to say something. Just want to say something. If we feel, okay, I've learned my lesson, but they still haven't, so they should still be punished. Yes, of course. They need to face their own thing. But if there is still a place inside of you that needs them to have the punishment before you allow yourself to feel good, then you are not free. Now, I do believe he needs to take a lesson from this. I do. But that's not up to me. It's just not. And if my happiness depends on him taking that lesson, then my gratitude is not real.
So if you say this, I was thinking, for me, this sounds more like forgiveness, forgiving. And
It
so
goes hand in hand. It goes hand in hand.
So being grateful for bad things that happened and the lessons you took is close to forgiveness.
It is.
Or maybe it's a condition.
It's a condition.
Yeah.
It's a condition. It's a condition.
First forgiveness, and then there's the possibility for gratitude.
And then through that forgiveness, we set ourselves free.
Yeah.
Now, the other person, of course, still needs to set themselves free. And I do believe that if you did a horrible thing, there should be consequences. I don't say that there shouldn't be consequences, but I don't need the consequences for my freedom. I do believe that these consequences are important, but I'm not going to depend my happiness on them.
And do you think it's possible for every event? So you say, until now, all the events I went through, I can be grateful for. But I can imagine events, awful events where it's not that easy. It's not easy maybe at all.
It took me 15 years.
Yeah.
So it took me 15 years. I mean, we're not talking about a thought process of, oh, you know what? I understand. Oh, Sue's great. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, you know what? I'm just going to let it go. It doesn't work that way. That's bullshit gratitude. The bullshit gratitude is just let it go. We have all those gurus out there teaching us, just let it go. It's not about you. Yeah, that's bullshit gratitude. It took me 15 years. And it was worth every second. Because without these 15 years and without this, I would not have learned. Now, the interesting thing is, it's not easy. It's not. It doesn't have to be easy. Yeah. There is no one energy trick and then we're free from it. I don't believe that. I've done a lot of energy work, and that has its place. Not in this kind. It doesn't always have to take 15 years. That's the other kind. Yeah. I did a lot of it on my own where I could have asked for help a lot sooner. But hey, if you don't trust people, you're not going to ask for help. So it doesn't have to take 15 years. It is hard work. Is it possible with everything? I don't know. I am extremely grateful that I haven't been faced with everything. But
Yeah.
I have a lot of hope from stories from people like Nelson Mandela, who has lived in the prison on Robben Island for over 30 years, being extremely tortured and becoming best friends with his prison guard who tortured him, and who is extremely grateful for everything that he has been through in life. And I don't think, well, I don't know if I would be able to do that,
No.
because I didn't
I
go
think
through that
it's
experience.
not even possible to know it for
No,
it because
exactly.
uh,
But I do know that it is possible, apparently, because it happened
yeah.
to Nelson Mandela. And I don't believe anybody is more special than anybody else. And I do believe that's what's possible for Nelson Mandela is possible for all of us. So, but I also know that if we don't practice this when things are good, it's going to be a whole lot harder when things are bad.
Yeah, and we're talking about awful experiences and learn through the years and doing the work to be grateful for the experience and the lessons.
Yes.
But there's also gratitude for all kind of other events or things or
It's all
even
of
good
it.
or
It's
the
all of
weather
it.
or
It's just gratitude that the sun is shining into this room right now. It's gratitude. We were just sitting in the orchard and there was too much wind to record this outside. Gratitude for the temperature of the wind on my skin, the birds. Gratitude for Jimmy jumping his nose onto my lap. There's gratitude for the bread that we made yesterday, the fact that we're together here right now. We're in the Finding God in Everyday Life retreat, and we're recording this. Extremely grateful for the presence of all the participants who are camping here in our orchard and who are doing their own process on their own. It makes me extremely grateful. I'm extremely grateful for the fact that I get to see you struggle with your own things and see you grow. I'm not grateful that you have those struggles, but we're human, so all of us are going to have them. And extremely grateful that I can witness it and see it and not have to save you from it, but that I can just be present for it. So there's many things, but ultimately this kind of gratitude that we're talking about for all of life means that we need to have an attitude where we know that we're being held by something bigger. And sometimes we see the something bigger, and sometimes we need the something bigger to hold us through whatever we're going through. But whether we see the something bigger or we for some reason see that apparently we're being kept alive despite all the torture and the horror, it is important that we wire our nervous system to the degree that it knows and feels that we can return to trust because we're alive.
so it's the gratitude attitude. But for me, it sounds if you say it like this, it's not an attitude. An attitude is something you can decide on. So this from now on, this will be my attitude. For like it's willpower.
I would never call it an attitude. I would call it a soul trait.
Yeah.
It's a trait that your soul has. Just like you learned to speak and you learned to walk, you needed to practice to do that. This is a trait that we have, just like everyone who was born with legs, and I know some people weren't, but if we're born with legs, we can learn how to walk. But we won't be just able to do it. We need to practice it. It's the same here. We are able to move move into the direction of the light, of God, of presence of source. But we need to practice it. And the more we do, the more we will be able to see that we landed on the planet of abundance. Now, if we just say, hey, you know what, we landed on the planet of abundance, stop complaining, then that is the bypass again. Because then we're not allowed to see the hardship. But we need to allow the hardship to help us move back to the light. Because if we're having hard shit going on in our life, we need to create a practice where we will allow ourselves, especially when it's hard, I would say, to look at what's not hard in this moment. In this very moment, what's not hard? In this very moment, it's not hard to hold your hand. It's not hard to see the sun. Even if everything else is falling away, we need to look at the things that are not falling away. And that's not easy. I was talking to this woman who doesn't speak to her daughter and her mother. And she said, oh, well, yeah, you know what? That's the bullshit kind of thing that I read in every book. Oh, yeah, that's easy. And I get that. I get that somebody responds to this from that place.
Yeah, of course.
I know it took 15 years. And yeah, it's maybe to some people, it might be easier to be resentful for 15 years and to be scared and terrified and to look at a place of victimhood for 15 years. To me, that's hard. I, for the life of me, cannot, because I would rather kill myself than live 15 years from a place of spite and resentment and anger. I wouldn't know how to do that because I can't see why I would be here. And I seriously would rather, and this is where I was when I was 23, I would seriously rather commit suicide.
So I hope this is not your advice if
No.
you're in victimhood.
That's not my advice. No, but
No.
I don't think it is easy. I don't think it is not easy. I know it is not. It sounds easy when you're on the other side. I know. But I want people to know, if you're listening to this, it's not easy. It's worth every step.
Yeah.
It's worth every step. It is, for the biggest part of my life, I'm 50 right now. I would say until I was 49, I don't know, 45, 40, whatever. I would wake up every morning feeling horrible. Absolutely horrible. It would take me 2.5 hours to get to a place of actually looking forward to some things in the day. And yeah, that's 2.5 hours that I needed. Yes, I know. But you know what? Not taking them is harder. So I would take 2.5 hours to walk downstairs, to journal, to write, to read poetry, to walk outside, cranky, grumpy, angry, mad at life, mad at God, screaming on the top of my lungs in the forest. I would do that for 2.5 hours because I knew if I didn't, my entire day would look like that. So I spent 2.5 hours to arrive in the moment so that the rest of the day was kind of okay. And every evening I would be extremely grateful just before I went to sleep, thinking, oh, you know what? I found the right place in my life. Tomorrow I'm going to wake up like this. Only every morning to wake up the complete same way as the last day, thinking, oh, why does it repeat itself every morning? And then I'd go back to the forest, walk on my bare foot in the orchard here, scream, journal, do all my kind of trauma work that I do, connect with God, pray to see the light, pray to see the light. and ultimately I would succeed again. And yeah, that's hard. But you know what's harder? Feeling like that all day because you didn't take the 2 hours.
Yeah, and if even that day it didn't work out.
There's always another day.
Yeah.
And right now, I wake up immensely looking forward to the day. It took me 50 years to get there. But you know what? I still have 50 left. Maybe longer. Maybe shorter. I don't know. But right now, I'm in a place of if it ends today, my life was good. And every day that's extra is bonus.
So the gratitude exercise is not only, it could be like you are looking back at your life, like people who are they know they will die soon. They look back on their life. You
Yeah.
could do it, maybe not as long, maybe in just a short moment, but look back on where you are right now,
Yes.
and
Look at what's good.
Yeah.
Look at what's good. I used to hate my body, every inch of it. And I would sit in front of the mirror looking, but what if this was beauty? That would cause tears and shame for 2 hours. But I had to make it right because I hated every inch of my body. That's not the place I want to wake up in every day. I don't want to wake up feeling that way about myself. And ultimately, nobody else is going to change that except me. Gratitude to me is the thread that weaves everything together. It's the thread that weaves peace and practice and action and words and moments in our life and lessons. Gratitude weaves all of it together, culminating ultimately to the glue that creates a soul-led life.
So you started off in this episode about gratitude is not making a quick list of the things you're grateful and then you're ready,
No.
then you're done. So what would be your advice to do it properly? Just a kind of how the exercise would should be done.
So I would say it is reorienting us from healing from something that happened to healing the relationship with life that we have. It reconnects us to source. It doesn't fix a certain thing, it reconnects us to source. So gratitude is finding God in everything. Not seeing God as everything, it's finding God in everything. And that means that constantly hunting for gratitude is a prayer that will reveal God in life. And the more we do that, the more we embody a life worth living. And the more we start to embody something that other people want to be around. But it's not about that. It's just the consequence of it.
Yeah, but you said it was contributing to how you show up your presence.
Yes.
Yeah, and that can be very attractive. People who
Yes.
with a lot of presence. Yeah.
And it doesn't deny satisfaction, it deepens it.
Yeah.
So it's
And I guess if you do it on your own, it's far more difficult than when you are
yes.
together or
So-
with some people who are on the same path.
Well, I would say that for the first 45 years of my life, I did this on my own because I didn't want to bother anybody with my stuff. I thought I was a walking problem and not something nice to be around. Um, Everybody who would say that I would fight or move away from. Um, and that's extremely lonely. I would say that once we start sharing this with the world, the first thing I started sharing this with was with the trees and with nature and with the roses in the garden. That's start there. If people are too scary, then I would start sharing it with animals. And then I would start sharing it with you and with the children. But the interesting thing about people is that they have a response that sometimes can be complicated. The first time I said to you something that I was grateful for, I said, I'm so grateful that you didn't leave. And then your response was, well, I almost did. And and that makes sense, but that's not what you need in that moment. So sometimes it is not the easiest to begin with your partner to share gratitude with.
No.
Because they have their own version of what happened, and they might have problems feeling grateful too, or they might need justification, or they might have something that wasn't seen in them, or they might need some acknowledgement.
I get that, because if you're in a relationship, it's almost impossible that there isn't any pain.
Yes,
as well.
Exactly.
And that's so it's more easy to find some people that are
who have no stake in your life.
Yeah.
That's important. People who are unconditional with you.
Yeah.
And those are hard. Of course they are. But that's probably not going to be your lover. Well, maybe your lover, maybe your mistress, or your. But it's. But I found unconditional love in music, in playing the cello. That's where unconditional love is, because it doesn't need to be anything. The love is in the playing of the instrument, not in the sounds that it produces for me. And that's interesting, because when I hear you speak about gratitude for music, I hear something very different.
What do you hear?
When I hear you about speaking about gratitude about your trombone, it's about being grateful that you're able to do it, and grateful that the quality is good. And for me, it is grateful that I can produce sounds and it doesn't need to be anything.
No, but I think you're right in a way, but I think the most gratitude I have is that I can be part of a kind of magical process where people don't know even what they are gonna play at a certain, so in a jam session with a lot of improvisation, and something arise from nothing, and
Yes.
and that's wonderful, and especially when things come together in a certain way, that it's not only one musician playing very well and the rest is doing their job only, but when the different voices of the instruments are doing things that you couldn't imagine beforehand.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's beautiful. So there's a lot of ways that we can find gratitude. I am extremely grateful for certain recordings of the Matthew Passion by Bach. I'm extremely grateful for cello music, because when people can't carry me, that music can. And there's a deeper, I find God in that, just listening. I can still remember when I was singing in a choir and we were rehearsing the Matthew Passion. I was standing in the middle of the choir. A lot of those people were extremely resentful and judgmental. And the minute we would start singing, something else would take over. And you're standing there and you're being carried by God. It is a thread that holds all of us together. And that makes me grateful for being alive. And that makes it easier to look at people thinking, yeah, you're having your struggles, which most of it I have no clue about. I don't need to fix your judgments. I can just enjoy your singing. And that helps. Doing things together with people that are on a different level. It could be music, it could be art, it could be reading a book, it could be with my parents. I would just be sailing or walking. We don't need to agree on all of it, but when we're doing something that connects us through it, there is a different presence in the room. And that is then where we can feel gratitude in the connection.
Now you say this, sometimes when I'm with someone, a good friend or someone nice, and sometimes we didn't have a conversation, or there's just a pause in a conversation, and then I can just feel the gratitude of being together.
Yes.
And that's mostly the start of a very much deeper conversation afterwards.
Exactly.
So it can also be not the end, the gratitude.
It can
of
be a new opening.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a new doorway.
Yeah.
And the more we practice this, the more we set our nervous system to a setting that it is safe to receive, that it is safe to receive a new opportunity, that it is safe to receive life, that it is safe to receive the good in life, no matter what else is happening as well. We set our nervous system to a place that it is safe to receive breath. Because if we feel unsafe, we don't take care of our body because we start to breathe very shallow. And in that shallow breath, our organs don't function properly. We create a lot of stress in our body that makes it really hard to do your work, to connect, to take care of your kids. So gratitude carries us through life, through the good and the bad. So for this week, if you're listening to this, just every day write down things that you're grateful for and really see if you can share that. Really let this thread walk with you throughout the day.
Can I add just one more thing?
Please.
I think you want to end this session, but I was thinking maybe for me, gratitude is even the condition for being curious.
It is.
It's without gratitude, it's much harder to be curious.
Yes.
Real curious.
Really curious. And it's easy to be curious about something that you want to know. But to be curious about things that you don't see the good in, that's extremely hard if you're not grateful. So, for instance, if somebody does something really stupid, I can be curious to, what am I seeing here? Instead of having a judgment directly out of the gate. And the interesting thing is that if you're really curious, there's always another side to the story. There always is. The father of Benjamin left me 8 weeks in the pregnancy. My first response was, I was angry. I didn't get it. I don't understand. And I still don't understand why you wouldn't want to know your son. But over the past 20 years, I've learned to also be curious to, I don't understand. So there must be something that I don't know. There must be a different side to that story that still, no matter what it is, doesn't add up for me that you wouldn't want to know your son. But there must be something.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes me more curious than anything else. And if we don't have gratitude, we will never be able to open up to that.
Yeah.
Beautiful. If you've been listening to this and you liked anything we said, please tag, share, rate us on your favorite podcast app. And if there are any specific questions you have, feel free to email us. We are right now in the Finding God in Everyday Life retreat. that really deals with this internal safety in our system. If you want to be part of that, reach out to us, because we might do it again this year, and it will most definitely come back next year. All my love for the rest of this week, and next week there is a new soul trait, so stay tuned.
Bye.
Bye.